For today's See Today Business Talk, we will be discussing the promising trade and business relations between Indonesia and Latin American and Caribbean countries. This, of course, includes Peru, which has massive potential for trade with Indonesia and is also hosting this year's edition of the flagship business forum that aims to boost trade and business relations between Indonesia, Latin America, and the Caribbeans. As part of efforts to boost trade and business ties between Indonesia, Latin America, and the Caribbean region, the Indonesian government established the INA-LAC, or Indonesia, Latin America, and the Caribbean Business Forum. The forum has been held every year since 2019 in Jakarta, but in 2024, the Business Forum will be held in Lima, Peru. The INA-LAC Business Forum has had a significant positive contribution to increasing trade between participating countries. In fact, since the inception of the forum, trade between Indonesia, Latin America, and Caribbean has risen significantly by nearly 12%. Meanwhile, since 2019 until 2023, the total trade between Peru and Indonesia has risen by over 78% to reach $477.4 million by 2023. Peru also invested in 23 projects in Indonesia in 2023. The projects were across various sectors from industrial, hotel and restaurants, and services, all of which totaled over $1.15 million. Meanwhile, among Indonesia's top exports to Peru include biodiesel, motor vehicles, machinery, and footwear. Indonesia and Peru are in the midst of negotiating the Indonesia-Peru Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, which is set to open up trade even further between both countries. And to discuss further regarding the promising trade, investment, and business ties between Peru and Indonesia, and also to discuss the INA-LAC 2024 Business Forum, we are honored to be joined by the Ambassador of Peru to Indonesia, His Excellency Raúl Tsuboyama. Your Excellency, thank you very much for coming to our studio.
Thank you for the invitation to having me. Open to talk and have a dialogue about the coming INA-LAC and the relationship between Peru and Indonesia.
Yeah, so you have been here in Indonesia for 2.5 years, right? So Indonesia is a big country, as you also mentioned before when we were talking, and one of the most populous nations and the biggest economy in Southeast Asia. How do you perceive Indonesia, and what potential do you see for future collaboration between Indonesia and Peru?
I think the most important characteristic of Indonesia is to acknowledge that it's the natural leader of the region in Southeast Asia. It's member of the G20. You hosted a couple of years before G20. You hosted ASEAN last year. And we have common interests, not only the bilateral arena, but also on the multilateral arena. So it's natural for Peru to try to improve our relationship with Indonesia, because we can see Indonesia as a platform also to continue our inroads in Southeast Asia. So the size of the GDP of Indonesia is of course immense. We cannot compare with Peru. But for Indonesia also it's an opportunity when you go to Peru to use Peru as a platform to make inroads in South America.
So how do you envision the future of Peru-Indonesia bilateral relations, and what steps can be taken to strengthen or to enhance the partnership?
I think after next year, we will celebrate 50 years of the bilateral relationship between Peru and Indonesia. And I can say in 2024, as current ambassador of Peru here, that we have a very good positive relationship with Indonesia. And what I can foresee for the future is that this relationship definitely will improve. We have been working not only on the political and diplomatic arena, but also trying to improve, and you mentioned in your introduction about the trade agreement, the CHEPA, between both countries. We also have been working on the cultural arena and the academic level. So the future is very promising. So all depends not only on the work of the diplomats or the civil officials from both countries, but I call the participation of the private sector. And INA-LAC, I think, is a good chance. Private sector from both sides, from Indonesia and from Peru.
So involving private sector is also important to strengthen ties between the two countries.
Definitely. I am a true believer that the work between the government and private sector will boost the relationship with any country. Without the participation of the private sector, our work is nothing. So it's a joint effort, public officials and private sector.
So in this case, what sectors in Peru that you see the most attractive opportunities for Indonesian investor, and also is there any particular policy to attract Indonesian investors?
We are a country very open
Yes.
in terms of trade. We have signed agreements, trade agreements and investment agreements that have reached more than 60 to 70 countries in the world, especially the main markets like China, US, Europe, some in Asia like Japan, Korea, Singapore, Thailand. So there is a business opportunity for Indonesians over there. When you ask me about which sectors, we are a mining country,
Yes.
where 90% of our exports are minerals, and we are an agro-industrial exporter. Now, according to the recent statistics, we are the 8th number exporter of food. It means fruits and vegetables to the world. So this is a good opportunity for the Indonesian investors, and also in new services. Connectivity is very important, logistics is very important. So this year, for example, during the APEC meeting that we will host in November, China, the leader of China will have the opportunity to be in Peru, President Xi Jinping, and they will inaugurate one of the biggest seaport in the South Pacific that will connect the South Pacific, I mean Peru, not only Peru, but the South Pacific, or the Pacific side of South America, with China and Asia. So this is also, we are opening or expanding our airport, the Lima airport, and we're investing or inviting investors to put their money in different sectors, like I said, infrastructure, minerals, agro-industrial services, that is not only open to Indonesians, it's open to all kind of business. Our regulations are quite flexible. Our regulations are investor-friendly. So I think INA-LAC is a good opportunity also for Indonesian businessmen to see in real time what is the country they may have or they may have interest in invest.
Yes, a better connectivity to tap the potentials of Peru. You mentioned that it takes 35 hours from Jakarta to Lima.
Yeah, we are in the other, actually, literally speaking, we are in the other side of the world.
Yes.
It takes, we were talking before, some of your colleagues will need to fly to Lima. It's 35 hours, it's the shortest flight that we have. But that's another area we need to work, connectivity. Connectivity is very important, not only in terms of moving people, but also moving goods and export and import for both countries.
Okay, so Your Excellency, the ongoing Indonesia-Peru Comprehensive Economic Partnership, IPCHA, negotiations hold significant promise, of course. And how do you perceive the potential of this partnership or agreement in enhancing the balanced trade and mutually beneficial relations between the two countries?
As I said at the beginning of this interview, Peru sees Indonesia as a golden opportunity in Southeast Asia. We are the second country in Latin America that we will have a CHEPA with Indonesia. So we have a first round in April. This week, I think, we will have the second round, the officials from the Ministry of Trade of both countries. And hopefully we will announce or we will conclude the negotiations on time. This is my expectation as ambassador. I cannot promise. I am not a negotiator.
This is your expectation.
My expectation as ambassador, and I'm pretty sure my colleague, the ambassador in Indonesia in Peru, His Excellency Riku Sukendar also, both of us were pushing very strongly to have the conclusion of this negotiation by the end of the year. And I think the golden opportunity will be during the APEC meeting. So our president-elect, Prabowo, has been invited. We expect his participation, and hopefully we will have the signed agreement on that time, or at least to announce the conclusion of the negotiation. CHEPA definitely will boost the relationship, the economic relationship between the two countries.
Do you have any specific expectations or target? Should we can conclude the IPCHA as the expected timeline by the end of this year?
Yeah. As I said, this is my expectation.
Yes.
But it's in the hand of the chief negotiators from Minister of Trade of Indonesia, Minister of Trade of Peru, to finish. I hope, and they are also willing to do that. But you know, there are some technicalities and some small negotiations still ongoing. But hopefully, both sides will try to do their best to conclude this negotiation as soon as possible.
Yes, and this is also very exciting. You mentioned this before. For the very first time this year, INA-LAC will be convened abroad, and it's in Lima, Peru. How do you see this? What is your perspective on the INA-LAC, and how has this event benefited the economic stakeholders of your country? What will be displayed or showcased through the INA-LAC from your side?
Yeah, first, I would like to express my appreciation for the decision of the government of Indonesia, in this case Kemlu, to organize for the very first time INA-LAC in Latin America. And they choose Peru, Lima. So we are supporting this initiative. My colleagues, not only Minister of Foreign Affairs or Minister of Trade, but also I contact the private sector of Peru to support this event, because this is a very special opportunity to Indonesia to showcase what is Indonesia about in Latin America and Peru. Because as the name said, INA-LAC is not only about Peru, it's Latin America and Caribbean. So we are expecting also to have businessmen from other Latin American or Caribbean countries coming to Peru. As far as I know, today one of the officials from Kemlu said that up to now, more than 40 companies from Indonesia will join this effort to go to Peru. Yes. This is a very long week, I think. They will start with a cultural event. So they are bringing 20 artists and musicians from Indonesia, and they will make presentations in various parts of Lima, the capital. And the second part will be B2B, business and business meeting, matching. Peruvian companies also are very interesting, very eager to get to know what they can do in terms of business with Indonesia. Just for your information, we, as Embassy in Peru in Jakarta, we have brought last year a business delegation from Peru. This year also we brought business delegation of Peru. And our interests are food. We're food exporters. We're fruit exporters. You can see some supermarkets in big cities in Indonesia. We are the main producers and exporters, for example, of blueberry in the world. And you can find blueberry here. We are exporters of pomegranate. We are exporters of avocado. Wow. We are exporters of all kinds of citrus. Asparagus, we are one of the top 3 exporters of asparagus. So there is a lot of things that we can bring to Indonesia. And at the same time, Indonesia have a more diversified industry, manufacturers. So cars, furniture, different kind of products that you can also use to Peru, not only to export to Peru, but as I said, Peru have free trade agreements with other countries, and use Peru as a platform to sell your products in other Latin American countries, and not only Latin America, maybe US.
So showcasing each country's strengths, business-wise. So please share with us, you mentioned the top products of Peru. We know that Peru is one of the world's top gastronomy countries, and how will you intend to use food diplomacy to connect more with Indonesian society? I heard you just traveled to Surabaya and also before that to many places in Indonesia. Can you share those experiences?
Yeah, for us, especially for Peru, gastronomy is a very important tool of diplomacy. and it's an easy way to get into, not only into the stomach of the people, but into the heart.
Yes.
Yeah? So if you eat and you enjoy the food, you will remember that. So we are very lucky. We are a multicultural country. We have different indigenous groups. We were conquered by the Spaniards, so we have a very strong influence from Spain. Then came other immigrants from Europe. Then after that, from China, and the last wave was the Japanese. So all these different groups influence in the culinary. So our culinary is very diversified. We're very rich in products also. So that's a good opportunity for us to showcase our gastronomy. I don't know if you're aware that one of the most prominent lists of gastronomy is Michelin list. The other is San Pellegrino. Yes. 4 or 5 of the best restaurants in the world are from Peru, in Lima.
Wow.
So we promote gastronomy travels to Peru, and in my case, in Jakarta or in Indonesia, we have 3 restaurants, Peruvian restaurants, one in Jakarta, one in Bandung, and one in Bali. And as an ambassador, of course, time to time, I organize also in my residence, and you're kindly invited, you and your colleagues. I organize dinners or lunches showcasing the Peruvian food. So gastronomy, I told you, private sector is very important. So gastronomy is also a tool to showcase what kind of products that we have. Yes. So when quinoa, potato, comes from Peru, originally from Peru. So this is also my chance to say, you like the potato comes from Peru. So we mix gastronomy, history, business, and other elements about centering about culinary or gastronomy.
Yes, food connects us fast,
yeah,
right?
Fast.
And just last question for you. So you have this photography exhibition that was held in Surabaya, and I asked you earlier, what are the similarities between Indonesian cultures and Peruvian cultures?
Yeah, my work as ambassador is not only limited on the political diplomatic sphere, but also economic, as we discuss a lot, and cultural and academic activities. So on the cultural area, we are promoting the diverse faces of Peru, my country. This one, in this case, we started in Jakarta, actually, in a gallery called Kang Gallery in Tanambang. We brought a Peruvian photographer that he belongs to a small ethnic group in terms of population, the Shipibo Conibo. They are a group from the forest from the Amazonia of Peru. And he presented his own views on how his people are doing everyday work. So when I showcased this, and we brought this to Surabaya, actually in the gallery Oasis in Surabaya, they are presented. And some of the viewers, the guests, says they found similarities about this Shipibo Conimbo group with the Dayak from Kalimantan.
Yes.
The textile, the use of the image, the iconography. And so this is one of my work, and the other is academic activities. Currently, we are facilitating the conversation between Venus, Erlangga, and Unpar from Jakarta, Bandung, and Surabaya, with to establish a similar relationship with universities in Peru, not only for students exchange, but researchers and investigation for both countries. Because one of the things is that I trying to overcome is to get to know people in Indonesia about my country, about Peru, and at the same time, Indonesia in Peru.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Raúl Tsuboyama.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
So that was our conversation on Peru-Indonesia trade ties and the INA-LAC 2024 Business Forum. For today's Business Talk, you can stay connected with us on Instagram, X, and YouTube. Our handle is at CToday News. We are also available online at ctodaynews.com. Let's stay connected.